Hello, everyone. It is Jeff McKinney, TechP, jumping in. This is the first iteration of the podcast stable. The podcast stable is a concept and a channel within the One Integration community. If you haven't checked out One Integration, I'll leave the link to it in the comments for you to come in and get comfortable because it's the future, an algorithmless platform and community that's envisioned to deliver you the resources and the support that you need by way of a community focused on purpose. This is a channel within and a platform within the community that's envisioned to birth and host other podcasts that align with our core values. And so I had a goal. I set a goal of wanting to produce the first episode of the podcast stable by week 1 of the NFL football season. And I challenged some of my good friends to join me in this space. As you can see, it's just me. And so I'm familiar with being in that position of being alone and being the first and going to go get it wrong and getting better over time. And so at some point, this platform is going to be great enough to be blessed by those fine gentlemen and ladies when the time is appropriate. So I wanted to jump in because it was my own personal um, goal to have something put out for this particular weekend. We have a great weekend in sports on this platform. We will talk about sports. We'll talk about fashion. We'll talk about philanthropy. We'll talk about entertainment. We'll talk about all of these various topics that when you take a moment, stop and think about it, there's a bunch of different perspectives on. And I don't believe that it is a place where truth or a non-biased, non-influenced perspective is readily available for humanity. And so the podcast stable is going to try to come in and give a perspective there. And it also just allows an outlet to do some less heavy work, to be honest with you. In my role as Tech P, I've learned over the last few weeks the relation of Tech P to Jeff McKinney, which most people know me as Jeff McKinney. That is my government name. And I learned that Tech P was developed as a coping strategy because of some very traumatic experiences that I had in corporate America that led me to have a diagnosis of PTSD. And so, with that diagnosis of PTSD, as I was learning to move forward in life, I started and I began to call myself Tech P. And I can only describe it as, I don't know, the pain when I'm Jeff McKinney, then there's pain, but when I'm Tech P, there's no pain or there's less pain. And so in reading and educating myself here recently, I became aware of the coping mechanism of disassociation and the I believe it was called natural, what did they say? It was like natural opioids or something like that. Don't get me wrong. Don't quote me because I'm not a doctor. I'm still learning, but it was almost like a natural pain relief that is released into your bloodstream when you switch over into this disassociated mindset. And so I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time as Tech P because being Jeff McKinney is painful sometimes. I tried to tell my wife a story about the legal proceedings, about the trauma that I faced just this past Saturday. She was away having a good time, and I tried to tell her about some things that the lawyer sent over. And before you know it, I was over a toilet vomiting. First time that's ever happened, but turns out is not all that uncommon. And so we got to talk about these things. And so, and I also have to have a platform, so says my therapist, to be able to do some less than heavy work. And so let's set that Jeff McKinney stuff to the side and let's get back to being Tech P. What is Tech P talking about at this moment? I got a call in 12 minutes. This was intended to be short. I want to say tomorrow at noon, I will be sitting down Central Standard Time, tuned in to see Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes face off against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That matchup reminds me of the early 90s. The great Tommy Frazier, Cordell Stewart, Westbrook, uh, Eric Bieniemy, uh, Phillips. Those were some epic matchups. The other matchup I am looking forward. I believe tomorrow there's a big game. I want to say is it A&M in Miami? I know Miami has a big game. I think it's A&M in Miami. But thinking about Colorado and Nebraska makes me think of those great Miami teams as well. So I'll be tuning in to college football, and then there's nothing else going on but some other games on Sunday from 11 until around about 5. And then the game that all of America will be waiting on will be taking place on Sunday Night Football, America's team against the New York Football Giants. And so what will it be? What will it be this year? For me, I'm a huge supporter of Dak and what he represents. I support Dak, and I have a heart for people who have had traumatic instances and overcome them. And so I want to see Dak do well. With that said, I'm going to bring an end to this episode of the podcast Stable. I am Jeff, the techpreneur for the people. This is week 1, episode 1. As time progresses, there will be others that join. You'll see my little Merc emoji start to dance around. You'll hear we're in the works making a theme song. My son is, and my son writes and rhymes and sings, and so he's gonna come with that super hot fire, super heat. We'll start talking a little bit of fantasy. We're gonna keep it light. We're gonna keep it fun. I'm looking forward to more podcast Stable. And let's see who else should join us for week 2. That challenge goes out to you, and you. Peace.